I'm really excited. I'm so excited for episode 9 of Windbreaker. Oh, episode 8. Episode 8 did not steer us wrong last week, did it not? No, not at all. And I have a lot of comments to get through before we start episode 9. So we just need to start right into it, right? I did do some post-editing comment note-taking before we start out looking at everyone's comments. While I was editing, I was like, I didn't talk about this, so I wanted to talk about things I noticed while editing episode 8 of Windbreaker. And one was the whole idea of during the fight with Togami, Sakura is like this sun. Like he's just being like, especially when he leaps above Togami and like there's a big flash of light. I'm like, he's like a sun to Togami, which connects to Choji being like this sun and this light for Togami as well, who is very moon-coded, right? And then Choji proclaiming that he's going to, when the moment he said he was going to own Bofrin after winning, if you go back to that moment, the spotlight on the stage is shining on him and the spotlight looks like an artificial sun because Choji is like not in the right mindset right now. And so the light he's projecting it's artificial and fake. I'm like, the symbolism. I had to note that because I didn't get a chance to talk to it in the discussion last week. And I was like, I need to start out by just pointing that out for you all. So I have a couple comments from episode 5 and a couple comments from episode 6. So Tasto3204 for episode 5, which is the episode on Suo, says not only is Suo's fighting style all about parries and just never getting hit, but he's doing all of this while lacking the usual depth perception given his eye patch, which you would think would be extremely important to have for that style. He's just that good. And yeah, I didn't really talk about it, but he was doing all those moves with one eye. That's crazy. So I love it. I love it. And then the Victoria Martin for episode 5 says, I took a summer judo class in college and boy, did that Taekwondo black belter who I was somehow paired up with really fork me up. Even though there's no striking in judo, the way that my body got violently jostled and tossed around, it got me so dizzy. I feel bad for Kanama with the way that Suo played around him. Yeah, Suo was just like a cat just batting a mouse back before it eats it. That's literally what Suo was doing. So then for episode 6, Salieri says, I like how the author didn't make anyone actually second in command in Bofrin. There is Umemiya, and he has 4 kings, which is different from Shishitorin, which has a leader and his deputy. And I really liked that because I think that that's true. I think that what we've seen from episodes 7 and 8 are really about how the power structure of having Choji at the top and Togami taking the brunt of all the responsibility to keep Choji in check. We could see the wear and tear mentally on Togami throughout that. And so I think it's smart that Umemiya is like, oh, I'm not going to just be like captain and vice captain. I'm going to have 4 people under me that not only keep me in check, but also kind of spread the responsibility and are able to do more things. And we can have more of a communication and more dissemination of duties. I just think that the model you can kind of see with Togami and Choji versus Umemiya and the 4 Bofrin kings, how the structure kind of balances out a little bit better for Bofrin. So that was good to point out. Sid, for episode 6, says, I really like how Narai was holding Sakura back with something almost like a hug. And Sakura, while resisting, didn't resist too hard and try to push through. I was like, yes, that is such a good point that Sakura was like, oh, don't hold me back, but also hug, skinship, comfort, things I'm not used to. That's such a good point to bring out. I love that for him. And then Sunspots had this really good point with episode 6, saying, most of all, I think this was the episode that made me sit up and appreciate how delicately crafted the writing is. Hiragi and Sako's relationship is presented like some kind of micro-symphony. I love this description. A micro-symphony of affection, responsibility, fear, gratitude, disappointment, rejection, acceptance, protectiveness. I think what I really love is that they could have stopped the narrative emotional thread at so many points, such as making it a story of Hiragi deciding not to be a leader and being disappointed to Sako, or Hiragi wanting Sako to find his own strength and sacrificing their relationship for that wish, or Sako wanting to see Hiragi improve and Hiragi being afraid of not being able to rise to his expectations, etc. But they could have chosen a single thread and followed that, and it would have worked beautifully, but instead, It's all of those things and more. Taking their story even further to Sako simply wanting to follow Hiragi and wanting Hiragi to want that too. Layers upon layers upon layers, and I adore it. I thought that comment was amazing, and I agree wholeheartedly with Sunspots. I cannot wait to hear y'all's comments about episodes 7 and 8 with Togami, because each fight has had more and more to talk about, and now we're at the main event. Now we're at the main event of Choji versus Umemiya, and when I tell you I've been waiting on this since like episode 4, I've been waiting on this since episode 4, so it's been a good month. I have been waiting week to week to get to this point, and it feels like it's like the most festive gift for us in this holiday season as I'm recording this, to have us be gifted with Umemiya versus Choji. I'm so excited. I had a work event today. I'm wearing what I wore to work. I was so excited to be able to just like come home, grab a big boiling hot cup of tea, and just sit down with you all and watch this episode. So, thank you all so much for your comments, for your kind words. I have really appreciated them, but we need to get started. I'm so excited. So we are going to start episode 9 of Windbreaker, and just, I'm so ready. And we're going to get that started here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. You know, this is a really good episode. One thing that I brought Whiteboard out, not really to break down the episode, but mainly because I wanted to keep track of some of the symbolic elements. I feel like there's so much in this series that you kind of lose track of it and you miss things. Like the last 2 episodes, I've been like, after I get done talking about them and I go to edit them, I'm like, oh yeah, there's that too, and you just miss things. So we're just gonna have Whiteboard Kun out here to keep track of just some symbolic elements that we dive into this. One thing that surprises me is for this episode having what it had in it, I still don't know anything about Umemiya. I'm just like, the mystery is still there. And it's kind of like Suo. I feel like this show does a really good job of not giving away all of its cards at once, because you had an episode that introduced Suo, so we met Suo, we get to see a little bit about his fighting style, we get a little bit with Sugi. I feel like with Hiragi, we probably got the most so far. Hiragi's story, I think this ties into Hiragi's character. Hiragi's character is pretty much, I don't want to use the phrase cut and dry, but he is what he is. Hiragi's not trying to be mysterious. He's just like, I'm a dude, here's what I do, and here's my story. And Hiragi's not trying to, like, there's no air of mystery around Hiragi. He's just how he is. And I love Hiragi. I think he's a great character. But I feel like of all the backstories we've gotten, like, Togami and Hiragi's and Sako's were, like, pretty fleshed out, right? But Suo and Umemiya, I don't know much else about Umemiya except that man is a tank and he had a hair glow up. Or he needs a bath. One of the two! Also, like, his hairstyle, like, he immediately wanted to look 35, so this is the hairstyle that we chose. And I'm like, look, I'm 37, I get it. I understand why you'd want to do that, but... So, let's dive into this episode, shall we? And just kind of talk about this. The one thing I kept thinking was going to happen is I thought the Ori sign with the flickering neon was going to go out. I thought that's what was going to happen. It did not do that, in fact, which I was pretty surprised by. But the Ori sign flickering. And man, I want to give a shout out to the sound design in this episode, because they did so good. There was like hardly any score except when Umemiya had his like track music going. There was hardly any music, hardly any sound. It was like dead silent, and then just the neon, that crunchy, migraine-inducing neon sound was all that you heard, and it was so effective. You just like, it was one of those things where you just like, the sound of the punching being all that you hear just like drew you in as the audience, and you're just like leaning towards the camera, leaning towards the screen to see more of it. It was, oh my gosh. It's gonna be hard choosing a thumbnail because there were so many really good shots in this episode. I mean, It was just so good. And to start out with how much rain is pouring in the gutter, it's just like all gushing out. That, well, again, the gutter. So the rain and then the gutter would be another one. I'll probably talk about some of the symbols and not write them down because we could be here all day going through all of the symbolism throughout it, right? But damn, I love how Umemiya is just a tank. He could take a punch. That man could take a lot of hits. And he pointed out being like, look, there's not really any weight behind your punches, so I don't really feel a lot of them. I thought that was a really good point to bring up where he's like, you're not really fighting for anything. What are you fighting for? If you have no conviction and nothing to stand by your punches, then what good are they? And that's a really good point to bring up. I mean, Umemiya has something he's fighting for. He's fighting for the community that he's a part of. So him winning has stakes. So he has to win. But for Choji, it's like, why do you have to win? And Choji really couldn't answer that question. And because he couldn't answer the question, it's like, he's like, well, then you have no conviction and there's no power to your words. So I love that. I love that idea of if you don't have something you're fighting for, then why? What's the point? What's the purpose? But man, also Umemiya is a very tall man, and so he can move his body around like a lot. Like Choji's doing jackrabbit jump flips and being like a little flea bouncing around, but Umemiya, he's pretty solid. That man does not have to exert much energy to move effectively, right? And I think that's pretty important. I think the fact that Umemiya does not have to expend a lot of energy to land a hit is pretty relevant, right? Yeah. I also love that throughout this entire fight, you have Sakura, Narai, Suo, Hiragi, and Sugi just sitting in the front row like, we'll let this happen. And Sakura and Narai are really the only ones who really kind of speak out. And have emotional reactions. I love that Sugi was like, just watch, just you wait. I want to know more about Sugi and why he follows Umemiya so much. I want to know more about that story. I'm glad we've not gotten into that. I want to know it later. But whenever Hiragi and Sugi were not reacting, I was like, okay, we're good. Because there were some moments where Choji got some pretty heavy hits on Umemiya, and I was like, ooh, that looks like it would hurt. But the fact that especially Hiragi, like I think Sugi gives Umemiya the benefit of the doubt no matter what, because he idolizes him and he kind of worships him. But I feel like unless Hiragi is worried, we're fine. Hiragi's the sound alarm. If Hiragi starts freaking out, then we can be worried. But if Hiragi's not having a reaction, then I'm like, oh no, Umemiya's probably okay. He's probably doing all right. But man, it was so good. And putting that jacket on. Now, at one point, Choji got a little dirty and he grabbed his jacket and tried to pull it back. Also, I realized I didn't make the bingo card. I'm so sorry. I keep telling you all I'm going to make a bingo card. We're just going to make it for season 2, right? We're going to finish out season 1 and we'll probably just make it for season 2. If I happen to get it done before season 1 ends, maybe we'll do it for the finale, right? Maybe we'll do it for the finale. But, I want to make a bingo card for season 2. That might be what it's going to happen for because I keep forgetting. So over my winter break when school's out, I'll have some extra time and I'll have time to make the bingo card. So I'm sorry I'm teasing you all with it, but it might be helpful for me to see season 1 and know what to expect and then make the bingo card for season 2. That would be fun. We should do that. But we got our ab shot in. We got Choji abs. Like, God, this kid. This kid is like just this jacked little gremlin. And then Umemiya is just like, don't touch the coat. What's really interesting is that Gojo's voice actor from Jujutsu Kaisen voices Umemiya. And this is not a spoiler for Jujutsu Kaisen, but the characters, Umemiya and Gojo, look very similar. If you look up a picture of Gojo, they look very similar. Probably don't do that because there's probably spoilers. But they look similar. Their personalities are quite different. There's a few similarities, but one thing I love is that the voice actor for Umemiya keeps his voice register down a little bit lower than he does for Gojo, which I think is kind of cool. I think it differentiates. As a voice actor voicing characters that look very similar, I'm like, what do you do? And he does voice them differently. Like Umemiya does not sound like Gojo, and I appreciate that. That's some dedication to the craft, you know? But damn. Also, want to note, when he went to punch, it was like his fist was like the thwomp in Mario, or like, the little big stone thing that comes down and tries to squash Mario. It also did not hurt his hand that much or show that. So he, I think, knew that Choji was going to dodge and didn't put as much force as he could have into it. But still, that's still kind of crazy. And he's like, I'm landing these hits, but that's when he has your fists have no weight. And then he's like, because you're not fighting for anything. And he's like, well, whatever, I'm still going to fight you. That shot of Choji's hands with the blood was just... and if you think about it, later when they're at the glass, like, lake, and the glass is all broken, it's like his hands are bloody from the punches, but they're also bloody from the metaphorical glass that is, like, sliced through them. So the bloody hands were a pretty good visual. I liked those. This is a bloody series. If you're easily grossed out by blood, I did not expect this series to be just as kind of, like, raw as it is. And so then he's like, well, I'll just keep punching you. And Umemiya's like, okay. He does not waste any effort. Umemiya, of what we can tell of his fighting style, it's weird. Umemiya is not defensive in his attacks, but he also is not offensive. He's just kind of just neutral. And he's like, he kind of waits to deflect whatever is put upon him, which is interesting. But again, They gave us some with Umemiya, but not a lot. Not as much as I thought they were. And I was like, wow, we're really keeping him close to the vest. We're really not giving a lot away about Umemiya. And I kind of admire the show for that, because it would be so tempting to do a sudden backstory on Umemiya. They don't do it. They show some restraint. And I appreciate that. But him saying, I told you that won't work on me. Oh, yeah, just brute force. So, yeah. And then Togami's like, okay, I think it's noteworthy that there is, like, a line of empty seats. We talked about it in the previous episode, between the rest of Shishitorin and Togami and where Choji sits. So, noteworthy. Also, Togami's outfit reminds me of Scrubs, and I keep thinking he's going to go work at a hospital after this. I keep thinking he's going to go be a CNA, like, after this, and go put some Band-Aids on people bleeding, And he's like, that hurt. But I'm going to be free, so get out of my way. And I liked that by the end of it, you have Choji realizing he was always free. Whatever he was chasing didn't exist. Whatever he thought he would get that other people had was not possible because of who he is and what he was after. And I like that Umemiya kind of brings up this philosophical conversation of like, well, what is the freedom? And he's like, well, it's to have fun. And he's like, well, you don't look like you're having fun. And I was like, ugh. And clearly Choji has like a button that is pressed if you pity him. He's like, that's the Choji button. He's like, what's your meaning of fun? He's like, to fight a tough guy. And he's like, well, you were always doing that. You were fighting us to begin with. You don't look like you're having fun. And then, I swear, Umemiya could become a counselor. He could become a guidance counselor if he wanted to. He's like, you don't seem like you know much about yourself. So, that's why you feel empty and mouth off these coulda, woulda, shouldas. I wonder why it translates to that. That's an interesting translation. And then he says, I pity you. And that is like the piteous, because Choji does not want that. He does not want your sympathies. He does not want you to pity him. He's like, but more than that. And he's like, I pity a team that ended up with a leader like you. Because he's like, you're not benefiting them at all, no matter what the reason. You're at the top now, right? And Togami wins the award for most sad, like somber, sorrowful expressions. His little twinkly eyes the entire time. I was like, dear God, Togami, do not do this to me. Also, there were so many good, I'm going to take so many screenshots of this episode. There were so many good, like, interactive, like, just stares between each other. I'm like, the yearning, y'all. The yearning. I was like, ah! I loved it. I loved it so much. But, Yep. And so then Umemiya just being like, he gets like bird-like when he's like, if so, don't let them look like that. Because here's Umemiya's thing. Umemiya is a man of mystery still, but there is one thing about Umemiya, And that is Umemiya's, his whole thing is that if you are the leader, your job is to protect your, I don't want to say tribe because that's not it, but protect your team, protect your group, your gang. There we go. Protect your gang. And Umemiya is like, you failed in that regard because you did not keep your team protected. Instead, you let them get down to your level. And he's like, you don't do that. Which, if that does anything, that does reveal to us that Umemiya may have a lot more under the surface than we think. And he's like, I'm not going to let my team, my gang, be on my level. I'm going to elevate them so that they're better than me. And that's kind of the whole point. That's kind of like where we get to in this episode where Umemiya is like, you were always where you needed to be. You didn't have to do anything else. And by you trying to elevate yourself, you pushed everyone else away. And that's why you were unhappy, because then you were all alone and you didn't have any friends at the top with you. He's like, you should have instead tried to elevate them along with you like you were doing originally. You didn't need to go through all of this. And instead, you just made everything worse. Oh. And just him punching the bejesus out of him. Oh my gosh. I love Nurai saying, I'm really glad that I came to Beaufort. Nurai's like, I'm glad I chose this house. Glad I ended up in this one. Could you imagine? Yeah. And then Sakura was actually pretty quiet in this episode. He's like, I'm glad he's our top guy. And when he said that, Sakura looked over like, well, that's going to be me eventually. Sakura wants to be at the top, but my dude, you have a long way to go. A long way to go indeed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and he's like, look like that. And he's like, this is from the past. So I like the idea of having this like glass. It looked like a lake, but it was really a mirror. And then it had the dirt over it. Not only the dirt over the top of it, like it had been like smeared and dirtied and got filth over it over time, but it also had cracked beyond repair. Because a lot of the symbolism with Choji in that scene is that the glass like blows from his hands. And, you know, in other shows we've talked about, I think it was Steins Gate specifically, talking about the metaphor of the teacup. And we've talked about it in Natsume's Book of Friends too, that once you break a teacup, for example, or break a mug, you can break this into 1,000 pieces. You can put it back together with glue, but it won't ever be 100% the same again, right? Mm-hmm. It's just kind of impossible to do that. And so Choji is equating his team and how his leadership has gone to being like that teacup. He's like, I can't fix it and take it back to what it once was. But Togami's like, you never had to worry about that. Like, we were with you. You didn't have to worry about trying to like make it something different. I loved the metaphor too, seeing the visual of him holding the glass and then the people behind him disappearing, fading away, and just the jackets were left after they were skinned. That was such a good visual. I really liked that too. That looked fantastic. Yep. And then Choji's left all alone. But yeah, his screaming. Who plays Choji's VA again? Is it the same one as Shoyo from Haikyuu? Choji VA in Windbreaker. Who is his VA? Is it who I think it is? Japanese voice is Toya. Oh, Toya Kinosuke. Did we go over what they were in? They're relatively new. Oh, they're Denji's voice actor. Yes, Denji's voice actor. That's right. For some reason, I want to say he sounded a little bit like Ayumu, who plays Shoyo. I kept thinking that throughout the entire episode. He sounds a little bit like him in this. But yeah, no, it's Denji's voice actor. Well, good to know he can scream like that. That just, and then pulling his hair out and just screaming, shut up. And the rest of Shishitorin are like, I like the one guy was like, is he okay? I was like, no, he's not okay. Not at all. He's having a mental breakdown. And Umemiya is like, Umemiya in his true guidance counselor form is like, yes, let's get it all out. Let's let out all the emotions. But one thing I really appreciate from this, Togami is such an empath. Togami is freaking out right alongside Choji, just not out loud. I think that it's really good to see that in action in this, because Umemiya, even though Choji wanted to challenge him, even though they do have history together, as we see in this episode briefly, I wanted more of that, but we'll break it down when we get to it. But even though they had a little history, Umemiya was, for all intents and purposes, an outsider in this conflict. So Umemiya, because he's an outsider, and because he has no interest in claiming Shishitorin, which we'll talk about at the end of the episode, because he has no claim or stakes in this, he can look at Choji's situation kind of objectively and say, well, this is why this is happening to you, and this is why it's going on, and maybe you should stop doing that. The thing is, Togami is such an empath, and Togami is so in sync and into Choji, he didn't want to rock the boat, and he didn't want to get on Choji's bad side and ruin that friendship. So he was not the person to be offering sage wisdom or critique to Choji. He just wouldn't do it. He's empathizing with Choji now, as he's like pulling his literal hair out. And man, yeah, he's like, I don't want you, Ume-chan. I don't want anything. That little tear that goes down his little cheek, at first I was like, oh, that's going to be the thumbnail for this episode. But no, there were some shots of Umemiya. I was like, that's going to be the thumbnail. But that shot of the little tear coming down, I feel for Choji, because this kid's just depressed. This kid's just got depression, and he doesn't know what to do about it. He's like a kid that's got ADHD who has also gotten depression, and it's like, that's a bad combo. You need to do something about that, sir. And these are kids, and there's no nurse around to offer any type of advice for that. Another thing was the idea of the dry, cracked gown, the desert. Something else that I got on here was the desert or the cracked ground. I really liked that as a symbolic thing that he was talking about throughout this, saying, when did my world turn gray? I felt really bad for Choji, because he just feels like empty and parched no matter what he did. And I feel like I think some of that ties to even before he became leader, that he's always had like some kind of depression or emptiness to him, and finding his place in Shishitorin gave him like a sense of belonging, community, and he had fun, and that helped to kind of like ease and alleviate some of that. But then when he became leader, it just all came creeping back, that loneliness and how he was lacking. And he's like, I don't care. It's probably impossible anyway. No matter what I do, no matter what I get, it's going to be the same thing. And if that's the case, I don't want that or anything. I was like, oh. And then he just tries to let loose on Umemiya. Umemiya with that like string of hair down. Okay, so his hair in the flashback was like eye level, and now it's like down to here. So it's grown a little bit. He has slow growing hair maybe, and he's pushed it all back and gelled it back so that it's not in his face. There's something about an anime character who has his hair back, and when his hair starts to go in front of his face, there's just something about it. There's something about it that I'm like, oh, it like scratches an itch, I tell you. But yeah, so Choji gets mad and starts just punching the bejesus out of him. And there's just like blood going everywhere, and I was a bit concerned. And that's when the Shishitorin guy's like, is that guy okay? I think he's talking about maybe Umemiya even. Not their own guy. They're like, why isn't he fighting back? And Togami's like, oh my god, is Choji gonna kill a guy? And then of course that's when Sakura gets up. He's like, you said you wouldn't lose, Umemiya! And Sugi's like, sit your ass down. He's gonna be fine. I'm with Narai though. Narai, I'm like, and Suo's just like, what do we do in this? But yeah. And then he's like, that's the shot that will probably be the thumbnail of Umemiya with his hair in his face being like, are you done yet? Where he's like, sorry. He's like, it's not like I wanted to drive you into a corner. He's like, sorry I made you have a nervous breakdown. Sorry I made you have like a mental breakdown in front of all of your gang, but sorry about that. And Choji's like, what? He's like, that's how much you were at your wit's end. Umemiya's a damn counselor. He's just a damn psychiatrist at this point. he could go on after all things are settled in their town and go make a living. And he's like, yeah. And then that's when Choji's like, you need to shut up. And he's like, but being reckless and breaking everything means that you'll forever be having it rough. Oh, that line, having it rough, shows she's like, you don't know me, bitch, you don't know who I am, you don't know my life. And the thing is, I think that Umemiya might, to an extent, because he talks about the idea that if all you do is break things, if all you do is destroy, then it's going to be rough for you. And honestly, that's kind of why I think he took over Boferin and why he's been working to kind of literally rehabilitate these delinquents to help the town, is because he knows firsthand, it seems, like the way Umemiya talks, it's like he knows firsthand that if all you do is be a delinquent that just wrecks shit, then you're going to get nothing accomplished. And not only that, but you will have a bad reputation. And not only that, but everyone in the town will hate you and you will be alone with no support. And then what good does that do anybody? Nothing. It does nobody good. And he's like, you can see that, Shishitoran, you're doing no one a service by being this way. He's like, you're always going to have it rough if you do it. And then Choji's just telling him to shut up. The biting his neck, I was like, he didn't hit the jugular, thank God. He didn't hit the jugular vein, but I was like, oh, I was not ready for him to just go all vampire in this moment, being freaking Lestat. I was not ready for that. Like, Narai's like, oh my God. I'm like, is Umemiya into this? And he's like, it's okay. The fact that he bit his neck and Umemiya was like, they're there. What? Insane. This man. What we do get from Umemiya, I am so fascinated. He's like, there's an answer in your heart. And I just, oh my God. How that just didn't pierce the jugular. Oh my God. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know the answer. And he says, do you remember when we had that dispute? Do you remember back when we had the dispute? We keep it very vague. I want to look at his jacket to see like what year it was. He says, in the end, it was a misunderstanding. So whatever dispute they had back in the day was just a misunderstanding and miscommunication, not too unlike what happened now. The difference was back then, Choji and his friends were all like, oh yeah, we got that. We'll see you guys later. Har, har, har. And here it was like, we're going to fight you for the death and for ownership of your gang. And it's like, it was a different vibe. I want to go back to this flashback. Yeah, so we see them walking away. I mean, it's not been too crazy long ago because Togumi, I feel like, didn't join but a little while ago. Yeah, okay, so this was 2 years ago. This was at the beginning. This was when... Okay, so it was at the beginning when, I'm assuming 2 years ago, was when Umemiya took over as a first year. Okay. And then they, like, we see, like, all of Shishitoran, and there's, like, first years, second years, third years there, and we see, it's funny that we see first year Ume there. He has Suo hair. His hair looks like Suo, you know? He's sitting there and he's like beat up. His hair looks like Suo. He's like, you really are crazy strong. And I think you can see Hiragi in the background. Is that Hiragi in the background that's been beat up? I think that's him because his hair's not been dyed. I think you can see his hair dark back there. Okay. So they fought them back then together. All right. Interesting. I like the fact that Ume from first year Umemiya looks like if Suo and Sakura had a love child. Am I willing that into existence because I'm shipping them? Yes, I am. But he has also his bangs. He has the middle part and his side bangs like go down to his eyes, and now it's like 2 years later they're down to his mouth. Interesting. He looks really good. Honestly, Umemiya looks really good in this flashback. Umemiya looks like a first year. Like, I would believe that kid was 15 in that flashback. Now, in 2 years, he's aged 20 years in those two. But yeah, interesting. Yeah. And that's all we see. He's like, you saved my butt again. And they're like, yeah, me too. Okay, so they were all getting beat up, and Choji came and fought Umemiya, and then they realized there was a misunderstanding. And he's like, oh, well, I'm happy when you say that, yeah. And he's like, that was the most fun I've had. He's like, let's do it again sometime. And then Umemiya's like, oh, okay, we don't have any beef. We're all good then. That's good to know. So I think at that point, Umemiya was like, okay, sure. He's like, back then, your fists felt heavier. A lot more than they do now. That cut to how much Choji's hair has grown out as well is like, it's so crazy to see how different they are. Oh, honestly, Choji looks a little bit like Narai in that one shot. Crazy. Yeah, that flashback was just a damn tease. A damn tease is all it was. He's like, what did you have around back then? And like, what are you missing now? He's like, what did you have back then that you don't have now? You need to fix that. You need to go back to how you were back then. It was a lot better back then than it is now. And man, the moment that he starts like getting up Umemiya looking like a damn zombie and Choji's like, stay away. That was such a good scene. Because he tells him just to stay back. And Umemiya's like, nope. Yeah, I love the details around Umemiya and how much he's aged there. It's so good. I did not know what I was expecting out of this fight. I was expecting... Because here's the thing. I was expecting to get more... I know this episode's called Umemiya's style. His style is really like... His style is to critically analyze you and psychologically evaluate you is his style. He's going to break you down on a mental level, on a psychological, philosophical level is Umemiya's style. And then he's like, we don't really have to fight. It's kind of interesting because he kind of combines like, he's not like Suo, right? He's not like Suo. Suo plays with their food. Umemiya is not hungry for it, really. He's kind of like, he mixes a little bit with Sugi and just being like heavy hitting when he needs to be, but he's also like the polar opposite of Sakura. Sakura is like attack, offense. And Umemiya is like, when I do hit you, it's gonna hurt, but I really don't want to hit you. I'd rather talk about it. Let's talk about it instead. And when he talks to Sakura about using your fists to communicate, he was psychologically evaluating through the physicality of Choji fighting him that he wasn't fully into it and there was something blocking him and everything. Like, it all makes sense with his character, but I'm now 1,000 times more interested in Umemiya's character. I want to know more. And the moment that Choji thinks that he's going to like grab him, I was like, oh, he's going to hug him. But he doesn't. Instead, he like just grabs him and holds him like between both of his head. He basically makes an idiot sandwich. He does a Gordon Ramsay. He's like, what are you right now? And Choji's like, an idiot sandwich. That's what he does. It's so good. And he's like, what you needed for yourself and what's needed at the top, you have to go back to that. And Togumi just saying thank you quietly. Shut up. Stop it. Stop it. The Choji Togumi ship is so on in this episode. Y'all will not convince me otherwise. And I love that you think, oh, he's gonna hug him. No, Choji is not getting a hug. He's getting a headbutt. That's how we're doing this. And God, he's like, remind yourself, Tomomiya. Umemiya becomes Mufasa from The Lion King, except when he's like, remember who you are, Simba. He becomes a physical being and headbutts him. That's literally what happens. I love it. I'm all here for it. And that knocks him out. Yep. So we have a flashback where everybody's happy and everybody has a little sunshine in their eyes and they're all getting along and it's super cute. And we see the way that the world used to be. And then once he got on top, I love the idea of seeing, I loved when we saw Togumi in the light shining through the glass. And we have this metaphor here of Togumi was trying to salvage and save what Choji loved and what he saw in the gang. but he just couldn't do it alone. And instead, when we get to the part about Togami talking, I want to go back to that because that part was really good. He's like, it feels like for the first time in a while, he's waking up from that dream. Togami's expressions with his hair down and like his bloody face looking at him. It's like, also at this point, y'all, everybody in that audience is watching. I'm like, is there any denial that these two are getting shipped together? Is there any denial? I don't think there is. He's like, I had a dream about the past. Everyone was smiling and I was having so much fun for the first time in a while. So I'm assuming that the first time in a while means since he became leader and all of that happened, it's not like he wasn't having fun before. And then they all helped him. He's like, please. Togami, the way they animate Togami, I could take 1,000 screenshots. He looks so good. And then he's like, I left you all alone. And I didn't know what was tormenting you. I loved that side of it. I loved getting Togami's perspective where he was like, I should have communicated with you. I should have asked you what was wrong. I should have talked to you. I should have fought you and made you talk to me and tell me and not let you retreat. He's like, I shouldn't have let you run away. He's like, but I let you go off on your own and I was too scared to get near you and it just made you slip further into this depression and this funk. He's like, I should have just addressed it head on. But instead I was trying to coddle the situation. And what ended up happening was he's like, that shot of him walking away with all the other guys, when he's like, I ended up taking everyone away from you. I'm like, oh my God, yeah. He ended up walking away by trying to keep order and get everybody into the Shishitoran way. Everyone was ignoring Choji and just putting him up on this pedestal. But Choji didn't want to be on the pedestal. He wanted to be with them. He doesn't want to stand on a platform by himself. And I think that that's something you don't really get until this episode. You're like, oh, Choji just wanted to have fun and be with them. He didn't want to be on top of the ladder. And that's kind of the thing, too, is that everybody thinks, like when Sakura joined Bofurin, he's like, I'm going to be on top. And when Tachibana's like, yeah, I don't think you are, because that's not, what she means probably is that's not how things work with Umemiya. Umemiya is the leader, but he's not really up on a platform above everyone, not intentionally. Now, some of the Bofurin members elevate him and put him on a pedestal, but Umemiya's not trying to do that. He's like, I'm trying to be, he's in that flashback, he's on the same level. If you notice the way that the flashback is constructed, there's Umemiya, and he is on the same level as Bofurin, right? In all the shots of Choji, here's Choji up here, elevated, and here's the rest of Shishitoran down there, right? But with Bofurin, he's on the same level as all the other members under that overpass, which is a symbol of Umemiya does not elevate himself as the leader. He's just the one kind of orchestrating stuff. Now, you could argue that his place of business is on top of the school, which puts him on top. You could argue that, but for this episode's sake and for this episode's purpose, it's not really like that. He's like, I didn't want my ideals to come crumbling down. So he tried to hold it all together. And then whenever he questions the ideals and Choji's like, what are you talking about? And we cut back to him. He's trying to keep the glass all together. He's trying to keep the glass together and keep everything from breaking apart. I love those visuals. He's like, I want you to be loved by everyone. Choji is just Togami and it's so damn good. I freaking love it. And he's like, even if that guy saved... And then he thinks back to what Sakura says. And he's like, I should have fought you. I should have talked to you. We should have searched for the answer together. And I'm sorry I left you behind. I took away what you needed. And that's when Choji's like, I believed if I became the leader, I'd have more fun than everybody else. So then we see like his version of the mountain, and all I could think about was Charlie the unicorn, where it's like, we're going to Candy Mountain, Charlie, with joy and wonder, and then you get to the top and you lose a kidney. That's literally what I thought about. Also thought about One Piece, because you have that little treasure chest at the top. But I love the idea, even in the illustration with the chest, The treasure chest at the top of the mountain is empty. It's empty. There's nothing there. And that's it's a great representation of power. If you get the power, if you get to the top of the hill and you're able to access that power, the thing of it is, it doesn't really give you anything. Not anything tangible. It's just a status. And it's what you do with it. And Choji had no clue what to do with it, so it meant nothing to him. It was empty. Umemiya, he's able to transform that power into a way to fulfill, like, what he believes is, like, his responsibility, or a way to alter a person's state in the town, which is what Bofrin's gang has become from being this set of delinquents to people, like, protecting the people around them. So Umemiya knew what to do with the treasure chest. Choji did not. And so when he got to the treasure box, it was empty. He's like, I thought something amazing was going to happen, and then it was like, boop, it was a mimic. It would have been really funny if we had, like, a free run crossover, and he, like, opens up the treasure and just, like, sucks him up like a mimic. That would have been funny. I wonder if anybody's ever done any fan art of that. If there's any fan art of Choji getting sucked into the box like a mimic, please put it in the Windbreaker Discord. I would love that so much. But yeah, it's kind of wild. He's like, oh, there's nothing here. And then he went up, it's like he went up to get the treasure box, ended up getting to it all alone, and then it wasn't worth it in the end. He's like, I didn't know where I should go next. And I couldn't feel anything. I was just hollow. But I had to do something. And he's like, so I blamed it on everybody else. And then it was just him and Togami. I thought if I just made everybody stronger, then it would be fine. But the thing of it is, I like that he told Togami that it wasn't his fault. It really wasn't. He's like, I was already free. He's like, I broke all of this myself. And that's kind of what Umemiya was getting at. He's like, if you just keep destroying things, then what are you going to get out of it? And I loved the one shot where he called himself an idiot and the glass, like, showed his like, face fractured in two. That part was really good. But then when they both kneel next to the glass and he's kneeling next to Togami, who's looking for it, and he, like, talks to him, that shot of him in the light is so beautiful. I love it. He's like, I'm sure you've been looking like that for a long time now. And then when he touches his face and it, like, transitions into reality, I'm like, shut up. And he's like, I caused you to look like that. My shipper heart, I don't think could get more full. I don't think I could ship them any harder in this moment. It's so good. He's like, you were trying to keep me and the guys together. Thank you for protecting me. Oh my gosh. I just freaking love it. And then, of course, Togami starts crying because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you start crying in that moment? I'm taking so many screenshots. Oh, it's so good. I ship them so hard. Meanwhile, there's, like, two guys in the bag of Shishi Torin. They're like, have they been like this whole time? They're like, you didn't know? I live for it. So, yeah. So then Choji tries to take off. I love that he puts the hand on Togami's shoulders and he gives him that look like, at least I'm going to set things right at the very end. And Togami's like, wait, what are we doing? He's like, wait, what? You're not going to take that jacket off. Why would you do that? And so he does. He offers the jacket to Umemiya, being like, here you go. You get my gang. You get all of them. They're all yours. And I freaking love Umemiya's reaction. I love when he says, take care of everyone. Togami's ready to either fight Umemiya or he's going to take off the jacket and join him. And they can both become exiles together. And then I like that. I just love Umemiya being like, huh? Hell no. He's like, no. I just love it. I love Togami was, like, already taking the jacket off. He's like, you guys are, like, your own team. He's like, I don't want any of your people. He's like, Hiragi's got enough stomach problems. I can't give him more people to look after. He's like, let's just say we're friends. Umemiya has, like, the Goku approach. He's like, let's just be friends and fight whenever we want. You know? And they're like, what is happening? And he's like, you're a really funny guy, Ume-chan. We just beat the shit out of each other. That's funny. He's like, break it up. Get lost. Oh my God. I freaking leave. Like, that's a wrap for today. Hope y'all had fun. Now get out of here. Oh my God. What a wild time. What a wild time. Now, here's the thing. I do think this brings up a very good point of something that could happen in the future because, for example, Choji never really wanted to, I don't think Choji really wanted to, like, get all of Bofrin. He just thought that would solve his problems, and so he's like, sure, I'll do this. But, and Umemiya's like, I don't want your gang. Let's go back to doing whatever we're doing. Here's the thing. At some point, I think that Umemiya might run into an opponent that is like, oh no, this is to get your people. I want to usurp your gang and have all of them, and I'm going to fight you for them. And is serious about it. Choji wasn't really serious about it. He was just trying to figure out a way to cure his depression. But I'm thinking at some point, we're going to run into an opponent that's like, actually, yeah, I do want to fight for your gang, and I do want them if I win. And then Umemiya is going to have to be a little bit more serious. Today's episode was Umemiya being a guidance counselor / psychologist. But I feel like we're going to get Umemiya's character in more detail later on when we face a tougher opponent. Because this is just the start of the series, right? This is just to get a taste of Umemiya. This is just to get a little love bite on the neck, as it were, of Umemiya. You're not getting the full main course. Oh! I want to know more, though! So, it's going to be a hard wait for episode 10. I can't believe we only have 3 episodes left of season 1. I cannot believe it. My goal for season 2 is to make a bingo card. I don't know if I'll get it done by season 1, but I can't believe we only have 3 episodes left. That is wild to me. So, I don't like to think about that because I love Windbreaker so much and I don't want this series to be caught up yet at all. No. So, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what we get. So, anyway, I am so excited. I've talked for a long time about this episode, but it was so worth it. I want to know what you all thought of this episode, what your thoughts about Umemiya are. Please, no spoilers. Y'all know I will get there. But I'm excited to see what's going to happen next week, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Windbreaker, and I'll see you then.